Love that song. And you better too. Everybody better love that song. My friends, my people, my folks, my good space nerds, how y'all doing today? Welcome. Good to see you all. Sorry, doing a little bit of volume knob got away from me today. Hello, my friends. Good Thursday to ya. Good Thursday in the morning. That's not a thing, but we're gonna make it a thing. What's up, folks? How you doing? I wanted to start today with a exciting song. I was feeling excited. We're talking about engineering. I need to be hyped for that. I mean, I don't need to be hyped. It builds the hype. I just want additional hype, you know? What's better than ice cream on top of ice cream? Hype on hype. That's why we like Star Citizen. How y'all doing today? We've got, I'm gonna make things better for you. We're gonna talk about engineering gameplay. Now, this is gameplay that we have heard about, much like many of the things in Star Citizen, for a long time. I'm gonna start us off with the very first in-depth look at this, which took place back in 2020, October. So we knew it was coming. We've known it was coming, actually. Why don't we start out with design documents for Star Citizen engineering, just so we can go all the way back to the source. I believe we will have to look at like repair kind of stuff. Let's see if yeah, here we go. So this is the very beginning, but the first time we saw this in person on video was back in 2020. And since then, they have gone through a couple different updates here with different teams, different people at different events, giving us the full kind of breakdown of what engineering gameplay is going to mean for Star Citizen. And folks, it's going to mean a lot. It's going to change the game. This is an actual game changer. This is going to introduce us to real multi-crew gameplay. This is going to create new complications when it comes to owning and flying ships, to repairing ships, to everything surrounding ships, even putting people on your ship. You're going to be able to have too many people on your ship for this. It's going to really change things up. So I thought we should spend a couple hours here and YouTube, you can chill out for a second. We can go through everything that they have said about this and see what we have in store. Thank you all for joining me live. If you're watching this after the fact, consider jumping in with us, where folks like Frenchie and Tyrus are out here in a member war on YouTube. I swear, YouTube blows it out of the water with the support. Look at that again. The bot never knows how many members it actually is getting. It always thinks it's double what it is. Thank you guys so much for that. Thanks for getting us started on a positive note. Before we get deep into things, I would like to say to everybody, my apologies yesterday. I had a bit of a moment, not gonna lie. I was a Star Citizen. It drained the life from me yesterday, as it does every once in a while, and I may or may not have let that drive my mood a little bit more than usual. So apologies. I hope I didn't get anybody down too much, but you saw what was going on. Toes Gang, I see you in here. Punji, Reese, holding it down as always. Appreciate you guys. Matt Sully, good to see you. Galaxy Soup, Jack, C. McD, Reese. Somebody else always gets it twice, right? Jack was in here first though, with the 3-minute warning. Jonathan, Tree, what's up, dude? How you doing? Good morning out to Idaho. Is it very hot there? What's Idaho feeling like right now? YouTube has no chill. I appreciate the no chill. Honestly, we got to keep the hype rolling. YouTube does a good job of that. Got me worried for a second. I mean, it's always gonna be like that. Like, there will be times when everybody feels some negativity towards something that they're following closely. It's only natural. My feelings at any one given moment don't represent my feelings of the entirety of this project or other projects. I'm sure at some point I'll be streaming some Starfield and get pretty frustrated. Doesn't mean I hate the game. Just means that, whatever is happening at that time is not great. Brent, thank you for the membership as well. Enjoy those exclusive videos over on YouTube. Hope you enjoy the stream too. Did you hear giveaway? No giveaways here. We don't do that stuff. We do have our Nomad giveaway ongoing though, if you maybe didn't catch that. Every time I come online, you gotta crash. We'll catch up in the morning. All right, man. We'll still be here waiting. Rusty Needles. I will make sure to I'll remember you. Somebody remind me of Rusty Needles at the end. I can't believe I just said I'll remember you and then told somebody to remind me. How rude. But we'll see you in the morning, man. The only streamer you actually watch from time to time. What do you usually do, Galaxy Soup? Are you on just watching YouTube videos? Star Citizen quality is directly linked to your PC and internet specs. If only. If only without easy. All right, folks. Let's get into this. So, like I said, our first video coming up here is going to be a talk. Well, actually, sorry, not our first video. First, we're going to look at this page, which is some of the early ship repair and maintenance stuff. And this is where you start to see some signs of engineering gameplay. So this was published November of 2015. It was about 8 years ago now. It's a long time. And as you come down here, you can kind of start to see signs of... Here we are. Component damage. When your ship takes damage, some of that damage will be transferred from the point of impact on the hull to the nearest system and weapon components. Those components then distribute that damage between itself and whatever subcomponents are attached inside. So components are meant to be the most vulnerable part of your ship. When we actually are starting to fly these ships how they're meant to be flying, they are going to be disable rather than destroy. So you'd shoot the ship, you would target the components, you'd try to disable it rather than just blow it up in one big explosion, which is why we shouldn't be dying as much when we're doing ship combat in the future. Now, they talk about the subcomponents that go inside of these components. They talk about module racks. They talk a lot about replacing the modules and repairing them and all this stuff. All of this is building into engineering gameplay, which we're going to see is kind of about taking the tractor beam, taking, I don't know, whatever tools they end up coming up with, and keeping components either updated or replaced as they need to be, all that jazz. So this is more just to show where all of this concept kind of started, all the way back in 2015. You can look these up on the website. There's a bunch of them for different pages, but this was the one that I think applies most to engineering. Now, the first time we actually saw any engineering in the game, they were calling it resource management, and it was really just a dev's look from their own perspective, using the tools that they use to build this stuff, at what their plans were. This is all design work rather than engineering or functionality. So this will be a look into the early gameplay. And like I said, this is back in 2020, so just a chance for you to get an idea of what they were thinking and see how the messaging was kind of consistent throughout the years. Hey, New Soul, how you doing? Good to see you, buddy. Oh my gosh, who is that? This is Count Disco. Count Disco is a character we haven't seen in a little while. Tyrus, did you also drop a sub on Twitch? Join GII, brother. Jeez. This man is trying to teach you the good word of our Lord and Savior, GII. What's up, chat? Hey, Prosy. All right. Let's jump into this. Forewarning, these videos have different volumes. Not much I can do about that. I'll try to keep it relatively consistent, but you might have to change your volume a little bit as we go. Like I said, I will try to do my best. Listen in.
The purpose of prototyping, especially for anything gameplay related, is to prove that it's fun. If you don't have it fun with a cube and a sphere, you can put all the pretty paint on top of it. It's never going to be fun.
What's up, Happy Hungry?
So with the resource management, we have this idea that there is one way the resources are managed throughout the entire game. There's one way to consume them, one way to produce them, and all the items everywhere, they use the same system. So we started by creating this small example of a ship where we have a power plant, we have a fuel tank, a battery, we have lights inside the ship, we have turrets, we have weapons.
I always think that weapons square, it says weather for some reason, not weapons. Oh, Gooser. Yo, YouTube. I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. YouTube, Gooser just dropped us 10 members over on YouTube, which actually pushes us into a little Fez giveaway. So as is known here on the channel, Mrs. Tomato is now scrambling to get Nightbot going. Let's go. As is known here on the channel, every time we reach one of those sub goals there on the bottom of the screen, you know it, you can see it, we do a giveaway. These giveaways usually consist of sub items, some kind of flair straight from RSI. So anybody who is, you know, a player of Star Citizen, who is a backer of the game, who is doing stuff in game, we've got a bunch of items here that you can get for your character. They are permanent. You will never lose them. I mean, besides if you lose them and then get them back at a wipe. Armors, weapons, special items, anything from the sub store that we may have gotten, we put them in here and we give them to one of you. So here in about a minute, Mrs. Tomato is going to start tracking all chat activity in YouTube, and one lucky person from YouTube in the next 10 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes, will win themselves a a Venom Lightning Bolt Corporation weapons pack, one pistol and a rifle. I think that is both of the lightning bolt guns, so the Axe Cav sniper rifle and the Uberev pistol. It's two different Electron weapons in the game. You will get them permanently given this giveaway. All you have to do is be active in YouTube. You don't have to say anything particular. You don't have to do anything in particular. Just, I'm not going to tell you what to say because I know you're going to say that exact thing. So do what you will. But somebody who is active in YouTube chat will be winning those two weapons in the next 10 minutes. Enjoy, folks. And you only have to be active once. You don't have to spam. We do appreciate the activity, though. Thank you, Gooser, for pushing us past that. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you guys over there on YouTube's. Let's get back to this.
We try to build a priority system, so you never want your lights to have the same priority as, for example, your power plant or your weapons. Basically, as soon as we start the simulation, the power plant goes, I'm online now, but I have no fuel. So all of this energy right now, the lights start draining the battery. If we put some fuel in the fuel tank, as soon as we put it in, the power plant starts going online, the battery starts replenishing because there's not that many consumers online. If I go, okay, let's say I set my weapons, my laser weapons to fire, as soon as I do that, there will be more drain on the energy. We can actually see we have a simulation of resources. We know we're producing this much power and we're requesting this much. We're running everything through exactly the same system. Now, same thing, let's say someone takes out our power plant because it got shut down or got sabotaged. Automatically now we're on battery power. It might go, okay, we don't need weapons now, we're going to turn them off. Lights, I only need the one in the front, so I'm conserving a bit of battery power until I can repair my power plant. Once I repair my power plant, this goes online and I can start turning stuff on again.
I love this. This is the coolest, besides data management, I think this is the coolest part of all Star Citizen. Just the balance, the fact that your fuel tank can convert fuel to power to charge your battery, which can run if your power plant's offline. And then you're thinking of, like, he's just showing lights and turrets and weapons here, but you've got ships that have interdiction modules that need to be powered. You have ships that have refueling services that need to be powered. We're going to have ships that are running like science, ships that are maintaining a life support system to grow farms on ships. Yes, the Endeavor does have a farm. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but like theoretically, all of those things have to be factored into this system, not as little pieces of the system, but like as immersive elements that just have to work when they're plugged in. And I think that's so cool because not only can you be an engineer in Star Citizen, you can be an engineer for the Javelin. You could be an engineer for the Perseus, right? You can know a ship better than any other player. And whether you're in an org or you're like just sort of for hire, you can always be that person that people go to for the absolute best performance out of the specific ship they're flying, which is so cool. I love that. Sorry, it's a little tomato tidbit.
Once I repair my power plant, this goes online and I can start turning stuff on again. And this was our first thing we did, where we built the ship, and we built this tool in a way that allows us to build different ship configurations. So as you can see, you can kind of understand the basic shape of a hammerhead. As soon as I turn on the simulation, we can see we have two power plants are starting to produce power. The fuel tank starts to get drained. The battery is on full capacity. We have these relays. Relays are a new concept that we're introducing in the ship in order for all those resources to travel from the fuel tank to the power plant, from the power plant to the battery, from the battery to the lights. Everything travels through these relays. Now, each relay you have on your ship is going to consume power. So the less you have, the more efficient you're going to be. The more you have you're going to be more redundant. For example, in this case,
and then it just gets deeper, like because ships are built with redundancy. So you could run the ship at like 100% quality efficiency, right? I mean, not 100%. You can't do that. It's impossible. But like, as he's about to show, you can turn things off to make sure your ship is running really well in one area. It's just crazy scale to this. It's not going to be skill-based system. This is all about knowing what ship is what, where each ship has relays, all that stuff. And this is a video somebody asked from 3 years ago. This is back in 2020. This is our first real introduction to resource management. Now, something to keep in mind throughout all of this is that engineering gameplay is probably one of the most important parts of Star Citizen in terms of gameplay. It is a systemic, dynamic system that is custom made for every spaceship in the game. And we all know that the spaceships in this game are kind of the most important. They put a ton of money into them, time into them. They pride themselves on their interiors and like the way that the ship works and functions and lets people on board. So engineering's got to be really important. But one of the realities of this project is that they couldn't build it until 8 years after the pitch. Now, we probably would have gotten some form of engineering gameplay in this if they hadn't expanded the scope like crazy back in 2014, 2015. But they had to sell all these ships to fund the people, to fund this guy, to make this system that runs the ships. So now we're learning about this system after all these ships have been made. And the depressing part of that is now they have to go back into all the ships to make sure they function like this. And that's what we'll be seeing probably over the next few years. But that's one of the interesting parts of Star Citizen's development. Saying you can't one man an 890 jump. I mean, you know, you can one man a giant cargo hauler out in the bay. You can't say you're going to get very far or do much, but you could try it. Give it a go. All right, back into it.
Let's say someone sabotages this and they destroy this part. You can see already this part of the ship lost resources. If we lose this one, this power plant is off. Let's say now I need to start shooting. So I'm manning my turrets and they're shooting. I'm starting my... Hammerhead doesn't have these weapons exactly here. We're just trying to simulate a ship at this point. You will start notice my lights started going off because in the priority, my lights are very low priority. If you look at the battery is starting to drain. Let's say at this point it reaches 0. It ran out. Now this turret is off. It doesn't have power. This one is not running at what we requested because there's only one power plant running right now. Now if I have a mechanic on board, he'll go, okay, this relay is broken. This relay is broken. Get power back to that power plant. As soon as we got power back to the power plant, we're starting to get our resources back. Lights start going back online. We're back in business at this point. But let's say we have, I don't know, a smarter saboteur that goes, well, I kind of see how this ship is configured. I'm actually going to cut it in half. And this is usually like a worst case scenario. The system is smart enough to understand the idea that once a ship is cut in half, this front part of the ship has its own resource network, and this part of the ship is its own resource network. So it runs them independently. So everything in the back gets powered by these two power plants, but anything in front is completely dead because our battery is dead. As an engineer, your main goal is going to be to keep your ship as operational and as efficient as possible. So let's say now I'm transporting goods. I'm just moving from A to B. It's a pleasure cruise, no problem. I never want to travel like this. Each of these relays is going to be a drain on resources. So I'm going to turn this one off because I can turn this one off and I can turn this one off. And power and resources still have a route to travel. And I'm still keeping everything online. I'm trying to minimize the number of things that I'm powering on the ship.
I love it. I love it.
This would be a viable configuration in which I'm still keeping everything on the ship fully functional. But let's say I go into battle. With this configuration into battle, if I take a hit here and this gets shot or gets sabotaged, I instantly lost half of my firepower. So it's a good thing to use when you're not in danger. When you're in danger, you just switch stuff to a more redundant system. Besides this, with all the overclocking and setting power levels, setting resource levels for each items, setting priorities, I think that the engineer is going to be a crucial part of the ship. So this is where we are right now with this prototype. This is going to take quite some time to implement. This touches on a lot of systems. A lot of stuff will have to get refactored, but we're hopeful that once this reaches the live environment, this is going to make the game so much better for everyone involved.
Gosh, I'm so excited for that. Okay, so that was 3 years ago. That was our first introduction. What we're going to do now is we're going to look through... Oh, we got a winner for the giveaway. Oh, my lordy. Jay. Yo, my friend in chat. My brother and citizen star. Welcome. Welcome to the lightning bolt weapon owning club. You just won yourself a sniper rifle and a pistol. Shooting out little pew pew sparklies at people. Little glitter. Yay. You know, good stuff. It does kill them, but still, yay. Congratulations. I hope you're in chat. If not, we might have to re-roll. Let's see. Nope, he's here. Jay is in chat. He wins. Oh, excuse me, jeez. If you are on Discord, you shoot a message to Mrs. Tomato. She will get you set up to receive those things, those prizes. Otherwise, Oh, there you go. She's got you on the message. You guys figure that out. Congratulations. Next time we reach a goal, we will do another giveaway. But anyways, I don't quite remember what I was saying anymore. But now, this was our first real introduction. And I think this was a great one. Honestly, I miss Inside Star Citizen like this. You guys, we've had some good Inside Star Citizens here and there, but getting to get the hands-on talk from the dev on top of like the full prototype display of this, we just got this with hole munching to some extent. But this still, I think, I would love to get something like this in terms of hacking or engineering, or not engineering, bounty hunting V2 and other stuff like that. Be so cool. So what we're going to do now is go through the last few years of updates on this type of gameplay from different teams. As you can see, familiar face, and at the end here, you will see another familiar face. So the same people have been working on this system throughout the years, which is pretty good to hear. Means it's the vision and the work has been consistent. And what we're going to hear now basically is their updates on how it's been going and further depth into what it actually means, because what we just saw there was their first design implementation. Now they kind of want to talk about what the gameplay includes. A couple questions during that segment. Somebody asked if why they can't just run to the engineering stations and stuff and then back to their pilot seat when playing. I'm sure you can do that. I just think it's going to be miserable to do for some of these ships. How confusing will this be? I think it's going to be fairly confusing in the same way that if you threw somebody in a prospector and told them to crack a rock, they'd be confused. I don't think it's going to be something that you can't try within 5 to 10 minutes of seeing it. I think like the other gameplay mechanics, it will have a learning curve. You will have a pretty basic method of doing this stuff that might get you through the process. But in order to be very good at it and to excel at this and get paid for it, maybe, you're going to have to be a lot better. At that point, I think it will get confusing, especially during battles, which somebody else asked, what happens, or rather, sounds like engineers will be very busy during battles. What do they do when they're not in battles? That's what we're going to hear about during this video, I believe, which talks about glitches in the system, running components efficiently. Obviously, things that got damaged during the battle, you would have to take out and repair. In order to take them out, you'd need replacements, or you would need to move power around so that you're not messing with life support. So there's going to be a lot of maintenance that goes into being an engineer. And you don't have to be just an engineer. You could be a turret gunner while you're in battle, and then an engineer when you're not. You could be a co-pilot while you're not in battle, and then an engineer while you are. It's not so much that each ship has a specific job you have to stick to. They just all have responsibilities that need to get done. It's kind of like Sea of Thieves. Crew could always be at the station when on duty. Yeah. Too sad that you always play solo. Well, there's a ton of ships that are going to be perfectly fine with playing solo. I think anything up to probably like a Mercury Star Runner or even like a Constellation, you're going to be fine as a solo player. But going to bigger ships probably get them more annoying. All right, so here's another update. This was a update about 6 months after that, where we get kind of to hear what happened from there after they gave us the first introduction. Is there a degradation component where systems may fail randomly? Kind of randomly, yeah. They can get glitches and bugs if they don't have a good startup sequence. Have a way to save those configs. It's bad enough to lose our HUDs. Imagine losing the engineering configs each time you store the ship. Someday, I'm sure. First implementation? I don't know. I don't know. Pops! What's up, dude? How you doing? 07's, buddy. Group play is fun, but I think I don't blame people for not wanting to play in groups. It helps, though. If you find an org, it ensures that you will always have people you can trust to play with. Like, even if you're a solo player, and all you do is ever play solo, that one time when something might happen in the game that either requires a group to go in and do the mission all together, or maybe there's a dynamic event where it's easier for groups, or maybe just once you really just want to show your friends what group gameplay looks like, it's really nice to have a Discord server, an organization that you know if those people screw you over, they will get kicked out of the org. So there's like a bottom line of quality you can expect as opposed to going into the game and finding someone randomly. So I won't say definitely go play group play, but I think everyone should have a group in their back pocket to go play with. And this is the part where I plug GII, Guard Interstellar Initiative. We got quite a few of us in the chat here. Great group of people. We're undergoing a couple small changes here to make things a little bit more fun for our members. All you have to do is type in !org to check that out. And that's the end of my plug. Jay, go ahead and shoot a message over to Mrs. Tomato on Discord, if you are on the Discord server, and she will hook you up with your prize. All right, now let's get back to what they have to say. Sorry about that.
Let's talk about resource management a little bit. We haven't discussed, actually you and I have never discussed, you discussed with Count Disco back around Halloween time, the beginnings of resource management when you were prototyping that out. What can you tell us about our current progress, where we're at?
There's been a lot of silence on that, and for very good reasons. The programmer that works on this has had to go in the bowels of code and refactor pretty much everything with how our SC items work when it comes to how they function, how they generate resources. There's been so much groundwork. We expected there to be probably about half a year of groundwork. It turned out to be a lot more. This is a thing that will affect everything from ships to vehicles to stations. It's an incredibly, it touches the core of how our game functions. And I think at this moment, we are at the point where we start working on the actual gameplay. I know already there's heavy discussions, even this morning. Yeah, this morning or yesterday, there were heavy discussions of how we get the tanks on the Starfarer for refueling to transfer fuels between each other and the ship, because we want that to use the resource management and the distribution. We don't want to build another system just for refueling, or another system just for, I don't know, putting ammo into weapons on a ship, or I don't know, power, or all these things. There needs to be one system. All items in the game work with this system. We don't have 10 pieces of code that we need 10 programmers to oversee and maintain. Whenever one breaks, it's different from the other one. It's one system. If something breaks, you know exactly where to look. But we are getting to the point where we're starting to see this being used in gameplay. It's still gonna be quite a bit till we see a full ship where you can start cutting power, rerouting power, sabotaging. If you remove this item, or this item runs out of fuel or out of power, this happens. We're still a bit out. I don't want to give out. I don't want to give out any date because I don't know it. As you can see, our initial estimation of how much that groundwork of code needs to be was, we estimated half of what it actually was.
Right.
But this is the moment where there's also a good moment, because a lot of other programmers can start jumping in on this thing and starting to integrate. Whoever works on weapons needs to integrate this. How do you get your ammo from a general ammo supply crate? Automatic. How do you power the weapon? Does it need CPU? Does it need all these things? And how do you, the shield guy is going to do the same. The guy that builds power supply needs to work with it. So we can start. We're at the point where we can slowly start to bring in more people into this as the groundwork has been completed.
So yeah, and if you
I think that's really important too. I'm glad that he came out and said that, because like it would have been very weird. And this is something I think they missed with iCache, right? He acknowledged that, hey, we talked about this 6 months ago, and then I got to work, and like the code, there's a lot of code that we have to clear out from the legacy engine, and that pushes the work back. Like something like that would be great to hear about the economy per se. I appreciate that kind of feedback, because that told us that the engineering gameplay was going to be a far ways away after that. I think it's further than even I expected at that point, given that caveat. But that kind of point is, I think, very important for us to know. Let me see if there was any more engineering talk on this video. No, I think that was about it. I think that was mainly what he had to share. So again, that was just a quick update, what was going on. This is where we really start to get more into the details of how this stuff is going to work, how it's going to figure into life support and other things like that. And then we will jump on to the sort of in-game stuff that they've shown so far. But we've got questions, folks. You just thrown together a party to a man and a ship and had fun so far. You've never run into problems doing this. People have been pretty cool. Share missions and profits and everyone is happy. You could totally just do random parties in the verse. We've done like a sort of a stream series on that, playing Star Citizen without ships. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But for a lot of people, I think it's nice to have a trustworthy group you can fall back on. Blah, blah, blah. It's going to be so good one day, blah, blah. Indeed. You think people forget the community is usually pretty cool, even with pirates running around? Community is great. Community is good. But 3 years from now, I mean, I don't know how long you've been around. The community we play with now is not the same one we were playing with 2 to 3 years ago. And in 3 years, I think it will, again, be different, more diluted. There's going to be more people in a server, more chances for you to run into somebody that might not treat you as friendly as you'd appreciate. And also, again, when you're meeting random people, you don't really have a system to hold them accountable other than the one in-game. And in-game doesn't give us much tools right now. So being able to be under the same authority in an organization means that you can at least get some kind of response if something bad happens. Years just talking and marketing. Other companies make a full game in 3 to 4 years. Oh, all right. I'll bite. What AAA game have you seen made in 3 to 4 years recently? I'll give you 3 guesses. We'll look them up and see how long it took them to make. You got bombed, BM'd. We'll look after the videos. You're only on your laptop. Imagine that you tell your engineer to fix the engine and he's like, life support or engines? Pug groups is a real toss of the dice. Public groups, it is a weekend or a free fly. You most likely will end up with a murder hobo. Love a murder hobo. Everybody needs a home. Yeah, I don't know. 3 to 4 years is fast for a game. I mean, I think once again, Turrican is falling for the old mistake of thinking that they're just building a game and not like a full business and multiple studios and another game and a game engine. But it's hard to make a single sentence troll post about that, isn't it? All right. So here's the next update coming from the EUPU gameplay team. EUPU. Ew. And like I said, these guys will have more to talk about it. Thurston has a lot to say when it comes to the gameplay. And, I mean, you guys have seen him. This dude's been an MVP for gameplay systems in Star Citizen for the last couple of years. Could I explain how cooling is supposed to work versus working currently? Cooling? I can't actually, because we don't know how those mechanics will work. The heat system will naturally generate heat from components, and you'll probably have to, I don't know how you cool them per se. I don't think we've been made aware of that yet. You'll have to use your cooler in some way. Sure, that's included in engineering, though. Maybe they'll mention something here, too. Let's listen.
How is life support?
Whoa.
A few years ago, it was mentioned that the room system is finished and it could be easily implemented. What's the holdup at the moment? How is life support?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's progressing, definitely. I'm enjoying working on it. But yeah, I feel like the easy part is probably a bit misleading. It's more than just like room system. There needs to be, graphic user interface for all the panels. There needs to be controls for the rooms. There needs to be integration to resource systems. So there's like a lot of additional work that we're doing right now. And then also we have the setup for the ships, and yeah, but it is definitely progressing, and I'm happy with it so far.
We do have a lot of ships to process to get that exactly.
See, they don't state. So they don't talk about that very much. The amount of ships they have to go through and do this for.
That definitely is a contributing factor, and the question saying the room system is finished is not quite accurate either. It's constantly in development, being upgraded to support more new features and things like that.
Yeah, it's. I was trying to think of something I could add to that, but no, that's pretty much it. It's
a big feature. Yeah. It's not like.
And every time we add more ships, it just makes your work just a little bit. like one part, the project keeps moving the goalpost out for you. Like it's only this many ships, and then we keep adding more ships. But yeah, I think it's a major component, not just to not just for the present day gameplay, but it's obviously an essential component to real like multi-crew. One of the things, I mean, there's not a whole lot of multi-crew in Star Citizen right now. There's basically you're a pilot and you're a turret gunner, so like that. But
shout out to my EMP boys and that Antares. True multi-crew gameplay.
Things like resource management and life support and stuff like that. Those are all how we build out the idea of true multi-crew here. And for me, that was always my draw to the game. Like that's what
the classic engineer role. Yeah,
Scotty.
There will be a lot to make that exciting in the not too distant future when we have life support. I'm also thinking about the fire system in development. That gives you another thing for other people on the ship to do other than the pilots. Is we've got a fire on deck 3, send someone to go deal with that.
Right.
That interacts with life support, resource management, all of that.
Yeah, or just like
so all comes together.
The ship. Yeah.
And each time one of these systems comes online, that's another place to send damage. So, when ships are being attacked, we can send damage to life support and send damage to power resource management, like that. So the time to live on these ships will last longer and stuff. And it's exciting. It's one of those. The Star Citizen multi-crew gameplay of today will not be what the gameplay is of tomorrow, and I'm excited to see some.
It's a long tomorrow.
True progress towards that. Is life support still planned to be limited to people? Is life support still planned to be limited to prevent people using ships as a clown car?
Yeah, of course. Because the way it's supposed to work, you like on ISS, you have the scrubber. It removes the CO2, and it has only certain rate that it can process. Yeah, so if you suddenly get like 20 people inside of a small ship that's designed for like 2 people, then your life support is gonna start not managing it, and that the rate of flow of the air through the system will be too slow. The CO2 will build up, and you'll probably die.
We'll see a demonstration of that in engine in a few minutes here in the next video, I think.
Different rooms in the ships, so there's
We don't want to put a hard limit on it. That is something. So we want to have it systemic driven. So that means that. So if you have an Aurora and you want to claim it with 5 people, then sure, it will work. But what you have to do as the person running the Aurora, you have to replace the skimmer constantly, because the skimmer just depletes very, very fast because because of the CO2 production in the room.
Because the bodies.
And then, yeah, sure. If you want to decide to, every 10 minutes I have to replace the skimmer, sure.
Yeah, and also like you have, life support is not only doing the CO2, it's also like temperature and the pressure, and those things will be also hit by too many people breathing in the room, because then it's, less time for heating.
It's not like I said breeding in the room.
So it's going to be
too much breeding going on here.
What you want.
Life support's overloading.
The atmosphere to be like.
Several people in the chat are listening to your answers and all saying, how does any of that work with something like the Valkyrie, where you're supposed to have big open side doors, and so how does that work with some of these drop ships that are designed to have big open spaces to the.
So one of the things that will have to come along with life support is dynamic atmosphere propagations. Fancy name for just air actually moving between things. So if you have the doors open, you're going to be getting whatever atmosphere is on the other side of those doors. If you open the doors in space, you're going to have a bad time for anyone on there who wants to breathe. But yeah, you'll be able to fly around and in a way catch some atmosphere from the planet that you're in. Yeah,
that's how the Cutlass Steel's going to have to fly around, just doors open all the time, because they got like 20 seats in there. And Drake and life support, I don't know.
I think that'll have some interesting implications in future for planets with not human breathable atmospheres. It'll make your life support system have to work a bit harder once you close those doors to try and clean that up for you.
Oh boy.
And we've seen some ships like the Idris or the Javelin, they have like the Star Wars or Star Trek, force field walls and doors that helps keep atmosphere in. So it remains to be seen, what ships will have, stuff like that.
We need that. I mean, that seems like a pretty obvious thing they need to add into the game, right? Like, there are a lot of situations where you can very easily end up in a room that is normally vacuum sealed because the door might be small, but the room is big, and you walk in from the other side of the room, and suddenly you're in a vacuum. I feel like we would need those sort of air shields in this game. The ones that are on the Prowler, the Tavaran dropship, I think has those. I feel like we need those on all the ships to get around this weird problem that we're going to have with things like the Valkyrie and stuff. At least I hope. Looking at the conversation around the economy finishing up this year, I would be wary of that one. They put out a little notification about the economy. The Systemic Services and Tools team is getting shuttered and turned into the economy team. So what they've done is they have where is it? They say it here. We'll have more info on these teams, their deliverables, and their schedules in the future, but for now we've updated USPU and SST's schedules to end in Q3. So they may have just collapsed the things that they were working on. Maybe that went until December. They just pushed them forward to September, and that's where they're going to start the economy team's tasks. So it might not mean that work is done. They're just basically saying the Systemic Services and Tools team ends their work here, and probably in a subsequent roadmap roundup at some point in the near future, they'll show us what the economy team has to still keep doing on it. Not to say that it won't be implemented. I think it's going to be implemented piecemeal, but I don't think it's as focused as close to finish as the progress tracker is showing from that. The elevators are not airtight. The Carrack? Oh, geez. Can't you turn off the life support and put on a suit? Yeah, definitely. You have an estimated timer like you have in hot environments, but a little longer. Oh, for sure. I mean, you could straight up fly in your ship and still have your spacesuit on. Like, how most of us keep our helmets on when we're on board our ship? You won't be using your life support then. You'll be using your own oxygen. So technically, you could probably make something like a Terrapin carry, 10 different people. As long as they have their spacesuits on, you're not going to have a problem with life support. So I got moved up, but there are 191 tasks left, so there is a wall of work to do. Yeah, I'm thinking they're just going to drop those into the economy team's deliverables soon. Yeah, Carrack might need some problems. I mean, the life support system, when it comes online, will probably point out a lot of problems with different ships. Let's be honest.
It was the Halloween episode for last year where Dan gave a wonderful...
Oh, sorry. Wrong video.
B. Quartermass says, is this live? No. Last
How
week
often do we hear that question?
On the screen, I said it wasn't live, but this week I thought I'd let people wonder. Do we have any more life support questions? Let's see. What do you guys have against clown cars? Will T0 of life support allow atmosphere management on a per room basis, or will it be one atmosphere setting throughout the entire ship?
it's going to be per room. We want to go like as reasonably granular as it makes sense for T0 obviously. So yeah, you'll be able to set like the pressure in the rooms. You'll be able to set the temperature in the rooms. It can be different in each rooms, and like also like the rate for the scrubbing. So like it's gonna be like a balance for each room. What do you want this room to behave like? And yeah, there's gonna be a decent amount of like a choice there for player to do. Yeah.
I think one of our sorry.
Go ahead.
I think your suit will just only replenish if you're in breathable atmosphere. You know, like if you're. Oh, I see what you mean. So if you're in an oxygen-rich ship, your suit would try to replenish from that. Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. You need a way to cut that off in some way. I imagine there must be a way to do that. Yeah, I don't think there are hull breach shields. From the things that we've seen of hulls being breached, at least in Squadron 42, it always seems like they're pretty open to space.
One of our big considerations for this is that while you are going to be able to do everything on a per room basis, we're going to be making sure to have a good focus on usability, and again, the quality of UI will help with that, so that it doesn't feel tedious.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That like there's gonna be like obviously presets for like, oh, just maintain this room in like a normal state for life.
Do we seriously get 3 different people claiming to be the person who won the giveaway, guys? Come on. Why make our job harder? You know we're not going to give you this stuff without verifying. Come on, y'all.
Obviously presets for like, oh, just maintain this room in like a normal state for life, let's say. But then maybe you want it to be like warmer than ever. So you're going to focus the life support on the temperature to keep the temperature higher, and like maybe that you don't care about the CO2 levels in this room. So it's like, I think the idea is for the baseline to be very simple. You don't really need to do much. But if you want to go into these details for some specific purpose, you can. That's
Zulu Foxtrot keeps trying to backwards engineer questions about night vision by attaching it to questions about stuff that you guys actually work on. Foxtrot. Night vision is actually a graphics engineering thing, and we discussed it most recently with Director of Graphics Engineering, Ali Brown, so I encourage you to check that out. There's no...
Ali does good stuff. Hey, Jay, if you are still in chat, we need to get your information here on the on YouTube chat. Just need to get a couple of letters from your Discord name to make sure you are who you say you are. There you are. Cool. Mrs. Tomato is just trying to verify something with you. We got people pretending to be you on Discord. So if you could send another message, or at least let her know here what your... Oh, there you go. Dropped it. Thank you. He's got receipts. Let's move on.
Easy answer, but the truthful answer is in that show. So check that out.
See another Jay.
It's like, I have watched enough 80s sitcoms to know when you're trying to backdoor a different topic into what we're actually supposed to be talking about. I wasn't born yesterday. I was born a long, long time ago. Well, life support systems require consumables that must be restocked.
I think we already mentioned that. So
scrubbers.
You have the filters for the air. So for the scrubbing of the air from the CO2, so you need a special material for that will take care of it. And so that's one. We'll also have some for like heating up the rooms. We also
heating up the rooms.
Bunch. It's gonna be like a real system inside of the ship that you can put things in and make it work.
See, they keep talking about life support separate from engineering. And with answers like that, he's saying there's going to be a lot of stuff. You're going to be able to heat up the room. Sounds like they're actually planning on having a lot going into life support that almost makes it a little bit different from engineering gameplay. That's very cool. I thought it was mainly going to be about, I guess, maintaining temperature, but in order to maintain temperature, you also have to heat things up.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch. It's going to be it's gonna be like a real system inside of the ship that you can put things in and make it
little
work.
subcomponents. Space be cold.
There's a follow-up from chat that says, will depressurizing rooms during combat provide any advantages to stuff? Can you drawing the air out of a room if your attackers aren't helmeted?
I mean,
Stuff like that?
possibly you'd get more power. Life support obviously uses power, so I guess if you kind of turn it off completely, then you'd get more power. I
like the engineering gameplay of cut power to life support, all power to engines.
Yeah, exactly.
If you've got a really huge ship where the life support's taking up a lot of power, then that could be a thing.
Or some damage.
How would you guys feel?
That question was more aimed on.
How would you feel if after all this time, systems weren't running at 100%? You know how like right now you can get your shields up to 100, your weapons are firing fine, your engines are thrusting fine, and everybody is running around doing everything on the ship. How would you guys feel about that stuff starting to be limited by the amount of power you can carry at a time? Yeah, engineering will give power to life support. Life support sounds like a very in-depth part. So when they originally showed us, they sort of talked about life support next to gravity management, next to power management, but it feels like gravity and power and lights and all that stuff is engineering, and then life support's kind of like its own separate thing. Has anyone paused to figure out if keeping a thermostat in every room would be fun gameplay or not? Like, who asked for that feature? It's from FTL. So, yes, people paused. They developed a whole game around it, and people really like the idea of maintaining life support in a ship. I don't think every room's going to have a thermostat. I think it's going to be, well, I guess every room would need to have a thermostat, but it's not like you have to run around to each one. I think it's mainly just going to be you look at a screen, and it tells you what the status of each room is, and you can change the rooms based on that. But yes, that was a huge request from people getting into Star Citizen. People love that kind of engineering type of gameplay. It's not a pretty game, but it's very well designed. It is. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Pulsar Lost Colony. Is it kind of like that as well? With like the engineering gameplay and stuff? Also, Among Us is like, people really like Among Us as well, not necessarily for the engineering part, but that's, I mean, now we can play Among Us in Star Citizen.
Offensive uses of life support, and yeah, you'll definitely be able to turn off the air if you've got borders.
For the borders,
right,
yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
What if
and you can like heat it up, cool it down. Yeah.
But we'll be rate limited on how much the life support system can actually suck out of that room in a given time.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously rate limited, and also, well, once you suck out the atmosphere and you don't put it in the tanks, it's gonna be gone. You can vent it outside, yeah, and then it's lost. So you kind of also have to think about that. So that's, if you have a room in your tanks, then it's fine. But
what about replacing the oxygen with something toxic?
So in T0 we won't have support for like composition of the atmosphere. That's not yet a thing.
But you're open to it later on.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Cigarettes.
Yeah. So, something similar with fire, I guess, that fire creating excess carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide does make the room it's in toxic, but you won't be able to do that on demand in T0.
Yeah.
Jay, don't worry. Mrs. Tomatoes got you covered. She sent a message earlier. Just wanted to know your Discord name. So we'll hook it up. Thank you again for being involved. Thanks for being active in chat. FTL is vastly different. You see the whole ship in one perspective. That doesn't change. That is true. And for that reason, I'm hoping that they do with the engineering console, give you a way to look at the whole ship's layout without having to run to each room to figure out how things are going. Something like this, I think, is what they should be providing to players in the engineering thing, but we'll have to see. There's definitely a want for this kind of gameplay, and however they design it is totally up to subjective opinion. We don't know if it will be designed well or not, but the gameplay itself, the idea of maintaining the ship interior is definitely something that I think not only do people want in this game, it's going to protect this game. That's the kind of game system that other space games can't just come in and make and start stealing away the crowd from Star Citizen. You know, they have to make things that set them apart. Hell, they have to make things that validate this long development cycle, you know? O2 makes sense, especially if they're going to have onboard fires, but heat management, energy and gravity management, you're skeptical. Well, heat management is because there are fires, and energy power drives everything, you know? Like if you have a mining laser, if you have 4 mining lasers and you want to run them all at once, you're going to have to sacrifice your shields or something, right? If there is no power management, you could just do whatever you want with your ship and never have a consequence. And I think that's kind of what they're going for, is the trade-offs on that kind of stuff. Gravity, I don't know. I don't think gravity is that important, honestly. It's there if you want to have fun when somebody's boarding your ship, if you want to try and sabotage another ship with their gravity. These aren't mandatory things. None of engineering gameplay is mandatory, by the way. That will be explained in this video here. All of this is as it's as optional as if you wanted to do hardcore cargo hauling with tractor beam gameplay and all that stuff. This is for the people who want to be engineers as opposed to the people who want to do other stuff. You sure hope the engineering gameplay adds a PA system? Yeah, for sure. I think it will. I think they actually talk about that in a little bit. Don't understand the argument game system requires multiplayer in my multiplayer game. The game should allow people to play solo, but it should probably play best as multiplayer. I agree with you there.
That seems to be a good bridge into resource management. I don't think you can talk. I mean, any discussion of life support has to go right into resource management. Yeah. They're inextricably tied.
See, again, they don't refer to them as the same thing. I find that interesting.
We haven't talked about resource management since we had that wonderful demo with Dan Truffin way back when. What can you give us about it before we get into
which that would have been about?
What can you give us as a general kind of update? How is it going? Is it going? Is it,
a year and a half later?
We showed it so long ago.
Yeah, there are improvements. I mean, some things are necessary for life support to use it. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on partially. So we have I guess support for it to interact with the room system, yeah, to exchange the gases from the tank with the rooms, yeah, and that's all coming together.
You got anything to add, Torsten?
And in addition to the work that Yaro does for the life support, we also started working on the proper engineering screens because they are the same. So basically, the life support UI interface will be just an overlay or a layer inside the engineering screen. So every engineering screen is also directly a life support user interface, right?
Okay. Just because it was that Halloween episode way back when, and nobody's seen or heard from Count Disco since. We've gained a lot of Star Citizen backers since then. Can you give us a kind of a general overview? I'm not going to ask you. You can clearly do it as we demonstrated with the refueling. So not the entire loop, but what are our goals? What are the goals? What's the intention? That's just the top level of resource management, power management, however you want to refer to it. What are we trying to do here?
So our goal there is to give the all resources distribution of any ship in player's hands. So we have fuel. We have fuel that is consumed by the power plant and by the engines, and you are in control of how much fuel those engines and the power plant gets. And depending on how much fuel the power plant gets, it will create energy, and you can distribute that energy. So, for example, you could even say, okay, I don't need any light in my ship. So none of the energy goes to the light or the doors. So all the doors stay open for the.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Oh my gosh, please. Please, somebody take away the power from my doors so I don't have to open up. Oh, the MSR. Oh my God, those doors. Sounds wonderful. Godsend.
Or the shields. So this is something that you will be able to manage on the fly. So dynamically, anytime, any day, on any ship, you will be able to have full control over the resource distribution of your ship.
That's another point. Like, they don't want to leave something out because they're trying to simulate the ship here. Simulating a couple of the systems and then leaving a couple of the other ones alone would be a little jarring, I think, in terms of gameplay. Yeah. Then you have a breach and lose all atmosphere.
Question is probably
worth it.
Similar to the life support one. Regarding resource management, will content teams need to rework existing ships before this can be implemented in the PU?
Yes.
Yep.
Quite significantly, actually, yes. Because we have some legacy systems that work, but are not the ideal way that we intended to have it work. So there are some optimizations that we have to do so that it runs performant and that we don't put too much stress on everything, which is already quite stressed. So there's a lot to do on our side.
I would say that's one of the more important questions. Anybody who is watching this, if you find a Star Citizen live with the EUPU team, I think it's just the EUPU team. I don't think EUPU is the one who's working on this mainly. If we have another Star Citizen live with them, that's something that we really, really need to get an answer on. How is the work going on converting ships for this system? Because the last thing we heard about this was that there are 3 ships currently being built with this in mind, or being built in. The Hull A, the Hammerhead, which we saw, and the Crusader Ares. Now, I think that's because they wanted to get a multi-crew ship, a small ship with an interior, and a non-interior ship working on this system just for testing purposes and to figure things out. But that was last year, and we don't really know what they've done since then on this. But I think that's probably the thing most people care about. When is my ship going to get this system as opposed to the new ships? And we could use an update on that now for sure. Hopefully get robust role assignment too. Yeah, that's something they're going to talk about in the next video. Do you think they'll ever build staircases as alternatives to elevators into the game? No, I don't. I think some areas will have staircases, like capital ships will definitely have staircases where elevators could also be. But in like cities and stuff like that, I don't think so, because the distances are just so far. Hey, I don't use the Character Caterpillar. So I can't speak towards how bad those are, but I feel like the MSR has a particularly bad case of not opening doors when you walk near them. At the Kickstarter, it was mentioned you can tweak each thruster or replace them for different ones. I think they're still going for something like that, yeah. All right, any more on engineering in this one?
Every ship needs to be touched, and every item that is existing also needs to be touched.
The good thing is that it's kind of going to be a bit combined, I think, with the life support. So because they both use obviously resource systems, so just like at least it won't have to be done twice. Hopefully, maybe.
That's a big benefit of this system. So because we now have the opportunity to start or to work on life support in parallel with the engineering, they all tie together, and our aim is also to have them release at the same time.
See, again, they're referring to life support and engineering as different things. I'm sorry I keep bringing that up. I think that's a significant point about the life support system.
Of course, it's sharing the same UI, it's sharing the same systems. So it is the same system, it just does a bit more complicated stuff with connecting it to the room systems and so forth. So
and it's not just your team. It's the UI team. It's the VFX team. It's the sound effects team. This is a major component of fulfilling that vision of ship life in the Star Citizen universe. And so you guys are here at the vanguard, but eventually it's going to open up and it'll be an all hands on deck kind of thing.
Every team is involved there. Every team has to do some update stuffs on their systems to utilize the new resource networks. So it's, yeah, like you said, every team has to be involved here.
We haven't talked looting.
All right. That's all engineering in that video. And yeah, I think it'll be their Gold Pass updates that get them up to this stage. But I also kind of hope not, because Gold Pass is going to require them to go back through everything in the ship, right? Then again, this is all component stuff. Like, this might require a Gold Pass on a ship to get done, and we've seen how many Gold Passes they've gotten through in a few years. It could be a very long and painful process actually getting engineering and life support in certain ships. It might honestly just be like the ship docking. Some ships work with it. Others just don't for a while. Oh, that's going to be another very difficult pill to swallow in the it's an alpha category of problems. But here we have the first real in-game produced look at what engineering gameplay is supposed to be. So up until now, they were kind of talking about resource management and showing prototypes and just having talks. This is the first time where they really go through the effort of actually giving us an in-game idea of what this is all going to include. This was from CitizenCon. Oh, I'm sorry. This is after CitizenCon. Wait, didn't we get... I'm missing a video here. I'm missing Power Play, I believe. Let's see. Here we are. Yeah, okay, so this is the resource management stuff. Oh man, we're not going to have time to get through all this. All right, we will listen. I will try and make this work. Let's get to it. Less stopping, more listening now.
Any station or any vehicle, any
items to produce, consume. Resource management is the underlying system that allows items to produce, consume, and store resources in the game. It is the digital representation of real-life cables, pipes, tanks, batteries, or anything like this that you can imagine.
It's the foundation.
God, I can't wait for the Galaxy.
We have certain resources like fuel and energy powering certain items on the ship, but it's also the system that will lie below any station or any vehicle, anything that you can imagine in our universe that actually requires a certain type of resource.
Resource management is not just a system that helps ships function. It is a thing that's integral to the functionality of the entire universe. It will be the way...
Okay, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to start to describe the actual particulars of this system.
Is true multi-crew gameplay. And for all of you out there that are waiting for the Idrises and Javelins and want to use these ships, this is the system that is going to make using those ships possible. So all that said, this is a really important system for Star Citizen, but let's dig into the details and see what exactly this is. Resource management can be broken down into several key elements. Power, energy, resources, life support, item maintenance, relay handling, access control, and gravity. So let's start with power, energy, and resources. The players can choose to overload items in order to get more efficiency out of them at the risk of burning them out. They can also underload items to save some resources if they don't need the full efficiency of an item. The players will have to pay attention to the balance of resources, power, fuel, coolant, heat generated, in order to maintain a well-oiled and balanced ship. And overall, prioritizing certain items and their resource consumption.
Life support is the most important thing you have to pay attention to in your ships now, since atmosphere is finite in all the spaces that you might discover. And here, the life support system is a key factor. Here, the life support, you have to maintain it, meaning you have to make sure that the consumables inside the life support generator are always there to make sure that it can generate breathable atmosphere for you, or the temperature is actually increased to a human livable factor, so you don't freeze to death or you are not cooked.
As part of item maintenance, the player will be able to control items throughout the ship, turn them on, turn them off. They will be able to remove broken items and replace them with new items, or sometimes dodgy items, depending on their income.
So this is what you'd be doing outside of battle.
Which sub-items are installed in those items, either as fuses or subcomponents that give them various bonuses to that specific item. They will be able to run repair gameplay and replace broken fuses when the item stops working or takes enough damage.
Relay handling is the actual management part that you, as the engineer on the ship, you have to do there. It's basically defining these circuits in the most effective way, especially for bigger ships. So a relay is something that defines which items are connected to each other. And what we want to achieve here is allowing you to create the best possible outcome for your ship.
With access control, we're introducing ship roles. The captain will be able to assign certain roles to each of his crewmates, and for example, say one of the player becomes the engineer, which gives them specific access to certain controls, while the person that is the pilot will not have access to those controls.
Fantastic.
At the same time, a gunner will only have access to a specific gun or all the guns on the ship.
And finally, gravity. So gravity is the concept that you experienced already in every ship. So there's always a ground, there's always a down, there's always an up.
God, we all know that feeling.
We would like to give you some more control over that. So because it requires some energy, and if you want to run your ship more energy efficient, we want you to allow to switch off gravity. Or there might be other use cases where a zero gravity environment is more useful than another one.
So if it wasn't clear by now, the scope of resource management touches pretty much every aspect of life in Star Citizen. So we're doing a lot of talking, but I bet what everyone would like to know is, where are we?
How does it work?
Power system.
All right.
We already.
So we saw this right here. Oops. Oh, I got rid of the video. Hold on. Let's see if I can just pull it up. Just close that tab. No. Okay, well, we saw that demonstration in the beginning with that kind of design prototype. Now you're going to see that almost exact same thing actually functioning in the game engine. So this is what we're going to be not necessarily seeing. This is more of a debug menu, I think, for the devs, but this is the kind of gameplay that this will introduce.
Throughout the ship, so we can make sure that each item actually gets the resource.
So, sorry, I kind of threw you into this. What you can see here is that the green lines denote where power is flowing in the ship. You guys all recognize how a hammerhead looks. Turret, 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 turret. And then you got the full body here in the middle. This is just showing all the different components. Power plants, relays, another power plant over here, battery somewhere up here. So watch as they move the relays around and disconnect certain types of power, how that changes the way that the ship is powered and can function. And they kind of share it here in text down here. I'll let you guys see that as we're playing. Here we go.
Resources they need. Creating your own resource path is basically defining the routes, or the most efficient routes that the energy.
So power is gone in that section.
Have to take throughout your ship.
Hey, Stack Overflow, how you doing? All right, added power going to the back of the ship there, or that might be the front, actually.
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life support system, including making new players suffocate.
This is where I mentioned they were going to show us how life support actually works, and you can see that they open the door, oxygen drains out, and that person dies.
Fire expulsion.
Oh, this is showing the fire both raising the temperature of the room and eating the oxygen from the inside. And then you vent the oxygen and the fire stops. Drazen, what's up, man? Holding down the mod game on Twitch, thank you. So oxygen's going down, temperature's going up. And then also all oxygen is gone.
Change the temperature in each room.
Life support systems in ships without airlocks. The the door seal should help something like the cutter, right? Because the cutter has a cargo bay and living quarters. So what's probably going to happen is that all the doors that automatically open right now won't automatically open unless you set them that way. And you'll just have to be careful venting your whole ship going to the cargo bay, I think. This video is from last year. Will they die from a lack of oxygen or extreme heat? It's at 40 degrees Celsius and O2 is at 15%. I think it's going to be oxygen.
Making new players suffocate.
Yeah, storing components in our cargo grids is going to be important.
Venting and filling rooms with atmosphere.
And like oxygen even moves through vents in the walls. We've seen that before with smoke too. Hello, Dante.
And making players suffocate again.
They like that. All right. Last thing we want to see, I guess they show gravity controls, which, it's cool. I don't think this will be as important. But these will be really cool for when you're boarding a ship or when somebody's boarding a ship and you turn it off to get them, mix them up. These are also all systems that are going to be put into outposts and underground facilities and space stations and stuff. So this kind of stuff will be linked to missions where you might have to reestablish gravity controls on a space station or something as like a low-level maintenance job. So this isn't just for spaceships. That's just how they're showing it so far. And then this is like, so if you were able to get somebody on board a ship who could sabotage it from the inside, this is just kind of showing how they can get in there, turn off the shields so that you can do more damage when you finally attack, which I think is a very cool concept, but might be pretty hard to do. So you turned off one level of power right here. Once he grabs this relay, you'll see this one will go out. Boom. And the whole half of the ship loses power, which means it has no more shields. Very cool concept.
In the last year, we've made tremendous...
So that is mainly the important things that we need to know. He's going to explain here a little bit more of what goes through it, and then we're going to jump to the next one.
Is a huge endeavor for us.
So like everything else, we'll probably not get everything in the initial release, but this is what we're aiming for. Interactable and accessible items on ships, relay gameplay, changing fuses on the relays, resource balancing, defining control groups that will be accessible through the MFDs, allowing people to create presets for your resource network for each ship,
an engineering UI with at least a list or schematic view of your ships, external engineering screen for ships, allowing engineers to define the tuning parameters that can be accessed by the pilot with the press of a button, like loading presets and creating presets. And
all right. So that is a early look at the engineering as of last year. Now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of this video from this year, and then we're going to jump to the Star Citizen Live with Thurston, because that's where we get most of our answers about this gameplay.
At CitizenCon 2952, we debuted a new recurring initiative called Journey to 4.0, where we stepped a bit away from our traditional weekly behind-the-scenes format of Inside Star Citizen to tell stories at various points of progression leading up to the next major milestone in our continuing development after 318. And one of those more different within that batch were called Design Brief Investigations, where we looked at the earliest phases of a feature that only existed at that time in the text and crude diagrams of a planning document. And no, before you ask, don't ask to see the planning documents. It's all just fidelities and bespokes all over the place anyway.
They're probably crazy.
I'm kidding.
Wextree, I'm glad you enjoy these. Thanks for dropping by. Hope you're having a good day.
Journey to 4.0, we're diving into another design brief that's been discussed, debated, kicked around, pitched, and repitched over.
Let's get into it. Sorry, Jared. We're in a rush here. Get ready to go out of town. Nice. Hope that's a pleasurable trip.
What is your role as an engineer? You, as the engineer, are responsible for the resource management of your ship, the priorities of the items, and you are also responsible for countering any dangers that you might encounter throughout your flight. A big part of your job as an engineer is dealing with dangers that affect the mechanical parts of your ship and are different to the ones you would face as a pilot. There are 3 types of dangers that you will face as an engineer. One being something that you already know, which is overheating. The second being wear and tear, and the third one being malfunctions. So overheating is not only items running too hot, but it also is item running too cold.
Waffle, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Either actively or passively, where passively is something that we already do with the cooler on your ship, and actively being something like you standing in front of the item and using your fire extinguisher to bring down the temperature of the item. And if it's too cold, you can use a flamethrower or blowtorch.
He's joking about this part.
Wear and tear is a danger you might have already heard us talk about in the past. It's just something that the longer your item runs, the less efficient it will be at some point. So a general maintenance will be required to keep them up and running. And then there is the new one, which we call malfunctions, which we'll talk about later in more detail. But the way that you react as the engineer there is unique to each malfunction. All 3 dangers contribute to the health of the item and have an impact on each other. So since the first 2 are quite easy to grasp, let's dive a bit deeper into the malfunctions.
You can tell that each of these updates that we've gotten throughout each year, they're getting a little more specific about these things, which is
cause different errors.
It's interesting to see.
While I can't talk about all of them today, here are some currently in development. There's disconnect, where you either don't have a relay right now in the place, or you don't have the item right now at the item port. Then there is power drop, where the required amount of power doesn't reach the item. Then there is misfire, where wear and tear impacts the functionality of your item. Then there is cloggage, where resources are prevented from reaching your item. There's also power surge, where high energy reaches your item and will negatively affect the function of the item. And then there is leakage, which is similar to cloggage, where resources won't reach your item, but the cause is a little bit different. Then we have unresponsive, where you as the engineer try to communicate certain changes on the item and they will not reach the item. There is bugged, where we have the most experience with being creative, so be surprised for what comes your way. And then lastly, we have destroyed, where you just lost your item. Bug can also be caused by hacking or being tuned incorrectly.
Okay, that's really cool to me. They're going to start talking about kind of tuning ships, and I think a lot of people dream of that idea of you got a big starship getting ready to go out with your friends. They're all getting their items and equipment, but you're in the hangar tapping away at the specs, getting the ship tuned up, getting the startup process going so that it runs efficiently. And it sounds like that process that you do before the ship starts will actually help with the ship running better in the future and not find these malfunctions. So you get that sort of choose where you want your engineer to specialize and then deal with the consequences if they can't.
Hey!
Why do we introduce malfunctions? The reason is quite simple. It's something that you know from your real life. After a while, certain things start to malfunction. So you better pay attention to those malfunctions and know how to react to those. So your job as an engineer is preventing those malfunctioning from actually happening, or preventing the dangers that they create on your ship. And if you don't react in time, you might end up with cascading of errors that will in the end lead to the failure of your ship. It allows us to have the engineer being as important on bigger ships like the pilot or the gunner. We want to make sure that there's plenty of things to do for you as an engineer. Your job as the engineer is also understanding the items. And that means you have to understand the different states an item can be in. States are basically stages for the items inside your ship, where each item has its individual stages or states it can be in. Where, for example, you can have items that have a boot up phase. Then they have, that is followed by an ignition phase, where you have to ignite something so that it is going into the idle state, where it is basically waiting to go into the active state, where it starts to produce the resources that you actually need. Then from that active state, it will probably, or some items might go into the primed state, where you have to fire something out. Example is here an EMP. That can then go into a cooldown state, where you basically have to wait for the item to cool down again and then to be restarted or turned off. This adds a new level of complexity to you as the engineer, where you not only have to pay attention to the dangers, the malfunctions when they appear or where they appear. It's also important on which item they appear and in which state the item currently is. Because depending on the state the item currently is where the malfunction happens, it might end up you having to switch the item to a different state to be able to fix the malfunction or counter the malfunction, or even turn off the item completely because the current state requires you to restart the item completely. And yes, for some things it is as simple as turning them off and on again.
Always is.
All of this we do to make the engineering gameplay more engaging. We still want to allow players to maintain their ships on their own, but especially for bigger ships, we really want to introduce meaningful interactions so that you decide to have several engineers on your ship. And for that, we introduced the 3 types of hats that you can wear as an engineer.
Doesn't mean literally, by the way. That was something people asked about a lot. He's talking figurative hats.
The 3 basic engineering types are tuner, mechanic, and manager. So the tuner is the person that is responsible for your strategic decisions.
The tuner is responsible for setting up the items in advance depending on what you want to achieve with your ship. So if you want to go exploring, you ask the tuner to bring the items into a state that they are less prone to wear and tear, that they sustain longer, that they can or are more energy efficient or resource efficient. The tuner defines item groups, base resource consumptions, responsibilities or roles on your ship, as well as setting new min and max performances for all the ship items you have. So overall, the tuner is a very proactive role where we want to reward players who plan their crew activities in advance. We did plan...
This is going to be so hard. I mean, I actually won't say that. It's going to be really interesting to see how this works when you have NPC crews who are meant to allow this for people who can't get their friends to be engineers on their ships, and the NPCs are meant to be not only able to do all this stuff, but also have proficiencies and certain skills in doing this stuff. Man, that's a lot of AI.
The tuner to be more relevant in advance of your adventures. But I'm sure players will figure out ways to make use of the tuner in various
Use the
scenarios.
tuna.
The next hat you wear as an engineer is the mechanic. The mechanic plays into your fantasy of what you imagine when you think about sci-fi and the role as an engineer. It's like, in Star Trek terms, the person running around or crawling through Jeffries tubes to fix any item. Or in Star Wars terms, Chewbacca handing you the Hydro Spanner to fix up the Millennium Falcon. You are responsible for fixing fuses, figuring out what the details of the malfunctions are. You are analyzing the situation on site. So you're going through all the rooms, finding the item that you were just called out on that needs maintenance, needs repair. Depending on the item or the situation, you as the mechanic have to react individually to it, which can be a minigame-like character where you have to fix something that is unique to the malfunction that you are facing. The manager uses the engineering screen to...
Hey, Serrano, thank you so much for the super chat over there in YouTube. I really appreciate the support. You guys on YouTube have really been blowing us up today. Thank you so much. Appreciate the detailed breakdowns of what's planned and what's in game. That's why I'm here, baby. That's the whole point I started doing on YouTube stuff, because I feel like Star Citizen has a lot of stuff to talk about and not a lot of easy places to find it. So I'm glad that people really enjoy these deep dives into the gameplay, and we bringing together all the videos and proof we have about what's coming. We'll keep them going. Thanks again for the support.
The manager uses the engine.
Also, like Frenchie said, feel free to like the stream, folks. The views and likes let us know what kind of stuff you guys like to see on this YouTube channel and on these streams. So we'll keep doing more of these if you like it. Thank you.
That is unique to the malfunction that you are facing. The manager uses the engineering screen to analyze your state of the ship, and they dispatch mechanics or the tuner where need arises, and can even assist with fixing certain malfunctions. They manage the resource consumption via the presets the tuner prepared or manually controlling the resource distribution, and they work together with the bridge crew to ensure a successful operation of your ship.
REA, thank you as well for supporting this stream. Thank you. Thanks for this breakdown, they said. I appreciate you guys just being here. It's fun to talk about Star Citizen. If I could do it with a bunch of other people who enjoy it, then it's a win-win. Thanks for helping us keep this going.
I'm really happy that I'm actually sitting here and explaining you all the things that I just described to you, because the entire process that we had to went through was daunting, to say the least, because we are touching so many bases with so many teams. So it's a lot of meetings, a lot of this.
So he's just basically explaining the rest of the work they've done. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this because this is a lot of good information. He does a great job of answering our questions here. We'll jump around it a little bit because we got a little less than an hour to go. Actually, I think this ends halfway through, right? Yeah, this ends at about 30 minutes. So we can actually stop and talk about this stuff as we're going. But like I said, a lot of good information. Thurston just generally, he's really, really plugged into the gameplay aspects of this game right now. And whenever he's on the camera, it's always nice to sit back and listen to what he's planning or what he's working on right now. Waking up to watching some SC streams, that's pretty nice. Not gonna lie, I used to do that back when I lived in Florida. I'd listen to Giratina, something, I don't remember the numbers. They used to do these inside Star Citizen around the verse dopamine edits with nice music from Stellar Drone over B-roll from around the verse. And I used to listen to those as I went to sleep, so I get it, tuning into this kind of stuff at the extremes of the day. There's a giveaway right now. Yes, exclamation point giveaway if you want to get interested, get involved in that. All right, let's get into it.
Here to talk about Engineer, which is the next.
Wait, what's going on, guys? YouTube is not even blessing us with celebrations of your guys' support. Y'all with the super chats right now on YouTube are blowing us up. Stephen French, thank you. Shout out for Arkansas Bar Citizen. Are you guys hitting up Bar Citizen today? That's a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for the support. Cheers to the Bar Citizens out there. Everybody who gets to meet up as a community. That's a lot of good fun. If you got one near you, I'd suggest checking it out. It's good times. Thank you guys so much. It really means a lot, goes a far way, and makes the people go crazy. What is it? What is that song? Gets the people going. It gets the people going. All right, sorry. Back to it.
Evolution of our resource management system. We did a Journey to 4.0 special that we released to YouTube last week in lieu of last week's ISC. So check that out if you haven't already, and then come back. We'll wait.
We're done. We did it. We did that, remember?
The episode was a bit longer.
Yeah, it can double speed.
Just wait.
We already did it.
Honestly, they're going to start putting rules on what I can do. So after that show,
there you go. Brohim gets it.
A lot of questions. So we're just going to dive into that because today's show is going to be a little bit longer. If you thought I was just like wasting time and everything, no, this week's show will
Tomatoes
be a
and
bit
pears.
longer than normal. So right off the bat,
Genocide, thank you as well. Genocide.
Our first question.
Thank you all for the support today. It means a lot, you guys. Appreciate you.
One of the things that you said during filming was we have to include a bit about how not everybody is forced to do this. Now, you're not going to be compelled into engineer gameplay, and there are going to be other opportunities for you to go and have your things repaired at space station stuff. And you were really good at identifying that we needed to film that, and we needed to include that in the section. And then I forgot to put it in. So it didn't make the segment. So I'm going to ask you right now, talk to us about that. Is Engineer this absolutely enormous behemoth thing that's going to ruin everybody's experience and everybody's going to be forced into micromanaging the tiniest and most insignificant details of their ship life?
If you're into that, yes. So we want to allow you to basically have full control over all the ship items, over your ship. So it should feel like your ship if you're into that. But on the other hand, we also want to allow players that are just like jumping in for, let's say, 1 hour of game time. We don't want to force them into you have to do a 2-hour prep and then do another of 1 hour of post prep for your ship. We really want also to have those players being able to fly around and experience all the missions in the persistent universe and all what we ever will throw at you.
So would you say it's kind of what I took from it, from listening to us when we filmed it, from the conversations from you stuff, it's kind of like owning a car today. The car is going to work and it's going to function and it's going to do everything that you expect it to do with very little work on behalf of the owner. Yep. And occasionally a light's going to go on. You're going to have to take it to a service center and get it fixed, pay a fee. Somebody else takes care of it and whatnot. But if you're an enthusiast, if you're the min-max lifestyle and stuff like this, you can fine-tune your automobile to get more out of it, to improve its top speed, to improve its handling, stuff like that. And that's where engineer gameplay really comes into play.
Yeah, imagine like you go out to the grocery store, you get your car, you jack it up in the garage, you get under there, you do some work, you replace the air filter, maybe you install like a short ram filter or something like that, drop some coilovers in there, and you're like, okay, let's go get the lettuce. I like that they are emphasizing very strongly here that not everybody has to do this, because that is the first thing that people hear or think when they see this. That's complex. Why do I got to do that? It is a sim, but it's nice that they're building this game with this idea that all of the gameplay that people might be excited to do are not things you have to do if you don't want to. Lee Bob, I see you with the super chat again coming through on YouTube. Absolutely killing it today. Said, good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you for your style of content. Any idea of your next guest on the podcast? Perhaps the pilot. First of all, thank you so much. Appreciate you. All the support, every single dollar makes a huge amount of difference to us, so thank you. Second, yes, next guest actually is the pilot. We've been planning it out. I actually got in touch with the pilot back in, I don't remember when it was, but I got with the pilot 2 weeks before he got hired by CIG, and we were talking. We were planning out an episode, and I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it this day. We set the date, we set the time, we were ready to go, and then he got the job, and we were like, we'll have to wait on this. So I saw that he ended up leaving and moving away, and he's back to YouTube, and I'm like, okay, dude, let's do it. So tomorrow we will be, for anybody who's a supporter, a Twitch subscriber, a YouTube channel member, a Patreon supporter, whoever you are, you can actually come watch all of our podcasts live every single week. You can drop questions, listen to our before and after podcast chat with the creators. Might get a little bit of drama in there. And you can also, see us live. So tomorrow, I will have the pilot on. After the stream that happens tomorrow night, he will join me in the Discord. Anybody who's a supporter can come join us as well. Check out the Q&A, ask questions, hear what his time was at CIG was like, and what kind of stuff maybe he's more excited for after that time. I think it's going to be a really good talk. So if you guys are interested, a lot of people have been asking for the pilot, come join us if you are a supporter. Otherwise, see that podcast episode posted on Monday by the lovely Mrs. Tomato in chat. Let's get back to it.
Exactly. You will be the person that actually is able to identify the light bulb that just went on in your car and tell you exactly, okay, this is the engine. And then when you open up your trunk, you see like, okay, it might be the igniter or whatever. So that is your job. But if you're not into that, you can still bring it to the shop and have it refilled.
So you just have to, it's like refueling.
So star citizens like this Dave Bridle here, who are no good at playing at doing this and have no interest in. Sorry, I threw somebody under the bus right now. That was an in joke. You're not going to get it. Who don't want to be an engineer or whatnot, they're still going to be able to operate their ship and run around and do this like this. Yes. But for those people who want to push a bit more, people who want to get a bit more performance, a bit more capability out of their craft.
Yes. Okay. Precisely.
And then from the repair standpoint, from the from the people who are in the Jeffrey tubes, fixing stuff like this. I mean, obviously that's a bit of the outside world, imposing in on you. What options do people have for that? Just limp home and get it repaired by a service station, or?
Yes. So one thing that is even now written behind me on my whiteboard which is the main goal that we envision for the engineering gameplay, is that player decisions matter, and one of the decisions can be it's not my gameplay, so I'm not into engineering. And it's a valid decision. It's your choice. It's your game. It's your ship. Whatever you want to do, that you can do it. So, but that has the consequence of you probably will run with the stock settings for the items that you bought, and you regularly have to go to repair it. So you have to pay the money to actually be able to repair it, and sometimes you might even need to exchange the items for money. So you have to buy a new item to have it then exchanged on your ship. and stuff like that. But if you then have the other player type who then is interested in, like, no, I can maintain my items myself and I can adjust them to my demands, so you can get a more, like a bigger or longer lifetime of the items out of your ship, or you get like a more effective ship, or you out
the
of your
subtleties.
Ship. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the video's maxed out. They publish videos at very different levels of volume. So some of them are quiet, some of them are loud, but this one is max volume on my computer, max volume on the YouTube video. I can't really do much else to boost the volume on this one. I'm sorry. I really do wish that they would do better with their volume levels. In fact, let's see what their volume is. Yeah, see this should be, I think, -8 decibels. So they upload a little bit more quiet than they could. It's too bad.
You are more effective in the sense of, yeah.
And from the damage standpoint, it's, as time to kill increases, as the game continues to evolve, physicalized damage comes in, the armor, penetration, stuff like that, and the natural time to live or time to kill, however you want to extends. It'll become a choice between knowing what your ship can do without an engineer and knowing when you have to cut and run, so you don't have to do that, or having an engineer or becoming an engineer yourself, and then you can extend your time to live.
Yeah, drastically. So it was even just a discussion that I had today with Yogi, where we were briefly talking about the time to kill right now and where we should be going. So we were especially talking about the multi-crew ships, because right now it's like a hammerhead, for example, dies too fast. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely something that we have to do. How it will look like in the future, I cannot tell, because we have to try it out. But one of our goals, additionally to increasing the time to kill, is also, like, if you are in a soft dead state, that you are able to repair to a degree. So you might even be able to repair the pieces you are still in, and if the engine is still attached, you might be lucky to do an escape, because you, like, pulled out your quantum drive out of the piece that is floating around and then attached it back into a socket that might be
just strap a quantum drive to a piece of wreckage,
the engine, and then you fly away and you made the escape.
One of the eternal challenges of Star Citizen, not just running a live gameplay environment in the middle of your development, but running a continuing behind-the-scenes documentary, a storytelling series telling the story of the thing while you're in development, is reminding people, without having to keep repeating it every 30 seconds in the thing, that we design systems for the game we're building towards, not the game as it is today. The game as it is today is what's available, what's online, what works, what doesn't work, stuff like that. Gotta be real. But when you design systems, you're not designing for the game as it is today. You're designing for where the game will be, with the increased time to kill, with the proper damage penetration, and
with
stuff
duct
like
tape, according to chat.
The current state of game in mind, right? So we always try to make it, like, the ultimate goal is to have it where we want it to be in the future. But and sometimes we can do some slight adjustments on the way there that are more fitting to the current state of the game. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not as easy to achieve. Sometimes we even have to do additional work to make it work with the current setup. But yeah, those are decisions that we always have to go through. And sometimes the decision is like, yeah, okay, we cannot put that much time and effort into creating, like, additional work on us that makes it fit better into the current situation. We aim more for the long run.
And of course, I introduced the idea of increasing time to kill and stuff. That's obviously where we're working towards for every spacecraft in the game, except the Cutlass Steel.
Yeah, +1 on that.
Why does it blow up so easily? Give me my camera. John Crew.
It's a coffin.
John Crew. Why my Cutlass Steel blow up so easy?
It's a mass coffin.
Hey, Cutlass Steel, and it goes, it explodes.
It's made out of steel. It's brittle.
I'm in a mood today. All right. So, so all that said, and all of that lay it on the table, just as in a simplified form, do people have to be an engineer?
No.
It was a very easy answer.
Now, for someone who chooses to be an engineer, can they be all three roles?
Yes.
Is there something that prevents them from being one?
Even the person that doesn't want to be an engineer can be all of those three types that we talked about. It isn't it's no skill, it's no talent, it's no device, it's not something that you pick. It's based on your skill. So based on your skill, your knowledge, you just take up we thought the hat might be a clear indicator. But
okay, I'm glad you mentioned the hat.
Yeah.
Some of the React videos I saw, people on YouTube or Twitch, or even some of the posts I saw on Spectrum, whatever. Some people took the hat thing to be very literal, like there was literally a special hat that you put on. There isn't. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but there isn't an actual hat.
Except the bandana, that is a must-have. So you cannot be anything. Yeah. No, kidding.
Yeah,
you don't need a hat.
To a more logical state, though, we're not. This isn't like like switching between a flight mode, like SCM or whatever. There's not a special mode somebody goes into to become a tuner versus to become a mechanic. This is like the difference between salvaging and mining. It's you decide to do these things.
Yes, there's a dedicated console that is constantly running, which full purpose is to give you an overview of the state of the ship. And this can be used by whatever person you are, attached. And once you interact with it, you can be technically called an engineer because you're actually interacting with the system.
All you got to do is touch the computer and you're an engineer.
For the mechanic, it's like, if there's something.
Don't know why I went to 4 years of school.
You don't have to be a mechanic. You just run around and you see something is broken. You pull out your multi-tool and fix it. Then you suddenly are the mechanic. You are wearing your mechanic hat and actually fixing the thing. For the tuner, it's a bit more complicated. There you have to first pull out the item and then do some adjustments there and then bring it back in. Right. So, multiple steps.
That's not how what works, Corgi.
One of those things when we talk about professions and stuff like that, I think what people can see with mining and what people can see now with salvaging and stuff like this, it's not a mode. It's not a thing that you check. It's not a thing that you enable. It is a aspect of gameplay and a system that exists for those who are interested in partaking in it. And the idea of three different hats and everything is something to be determined by the crew of a ship. You're going to take care of tuner tasks and you're going to take care of mechanic tasks.
Tuna tasks.
A gamified, okay, I'm putting on my mechanic thing and going. So that allows people to freely bob and weave and dip in and dip out of all three.
So, for example, if you are the pilot, you can also wear all three hats if you want to. You can be responsible for the resource distribution in your ship. You can also run around to fix fuses. Might not be the best choice because then you have to leave your pilot seat and actually do the things on.
Wearing hats and herding cats. Yeah. Shout out to Jake Bradley. All right, so one of the other big questions that
tuna licking time. Sounds like a
comments and stuff.
Superhero saying.
How often?
Tuna man.
Obviously, we're not going to ask you for a specific. No, I'm not going to ask you for a specific.
It's time to lick some tuna.
Ballpark. What are we? What are our thoughts? We have to keep this a high level kind of philosophical thing because tuning and balance comes at the end of the process. But how often are we thinking? When you talk, let's talk about malfunctions, because malfunctions are the kind of thing. It's like it's not somebody shooting me. The damage you get from somebody shooting you is going to happen as often as you get shot at.
Wait, do you mean that's not how it works becoming an engineer in real life? I was totally joking. You don't actually just kind of walk up to a computer. But you might be talking about in the game. In the game, they want it to be doable like that. In the same way that, like, obviously you shouldn't be able to just walk up to a mining laser and crack a rock open and take home 100,000 UE's worth of goods. But they want to build it so that anybody can try it. But in order to be actually good at it, to be specialized in it, like you said, for your org or your crew to say, hey, you're going to be the engineer for this ship. You got to know how the engineering of that ship works. You got to know the layout of the relays. You got to know what kind of bugs need what kind of fixes. There's like a lot of ways that they're still building in specialization in this thing. The only thing that they're trying to do is say, you don't have to press a button to do the gameplay. It's all based on player choice and it's based around how good is that player at that thing. So I don't think they're necessarily trying to say anybody's going to be a good engineer, just that anybody can pick it up and try it, which I think is a good philosophy to go by. That sounded really dirty. Well, man, what are you going to do? They're serving tuna, apparently. Gotta lick it.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just trying to live my life out in the verse, and my crap breaks. What do we think? Is this a thing that happens every 30 minutes?
No.
Is this a thing? Yeah, set some expectations for me here.
So it is dependent on what, like if you fly your stock ship, like the base example, if you fly your stock ship, like we are still debating if we want to make it based on the distances you travel or based on the time you actually spend in the ship. Right now, my favor is to go in the distance
Distance
side,
makes
so that
sense.
we make it distance based, but because like you might, like we don't want to punish players that are just jumping around in one system and just doing like the comparison again with cars, right? If you have a car that you just use to travel short distances in that city, it lives longer than a car that you use to travel. Well, it's not entirely true, but
Yeah,
I get what you're going though.
So just to throw something out, it's like, yeah, you might have it once a month, once a week, maybe. So
depends on your amount of usage. Depends on the kind of usage.
Exactly, exactly. But we are talking about different numbers once you start to tune it, or once you start to travel to locations where there are like environment effects. Like if you fly into a radiation cloud, these chances are higher that they might trigger or might interfere with the ship items and therefore trigger a malfunction. Or if you didn't pay attention and you left the door open and suddenly the entire atmosphere. So basically any state that your ship is that isn't the stock state will affect the chance for a malfunction.
Right. So those people that are trying to fast and furious their components and everything,
exactly,
push them beyond the red line and stuff. Yes, they will have to contend with more engineering. You want more, you have to put more into it as far as gameplay.
But
I mean, time-based makes sense because, like, obviously, the more time that I feel like it's got to be a combination, right? The harder you're running it and the amount of time you're running it for should factor in together. Because what if you just pull your ship out, sit it next to the city, and then come back to it 10 minutes later and there's like a bunch of malfunction? Okay, not a bunch, but you get a malfunction because you've been sitting there for 10 minutes. Kind of like cars can do that, yeah, but I don't know. That could be a little bit much in terms of gameplay. I feel like it's got to be a little bit of a combination of the two. There's definitely some RNG to it. Like they are taking values of wear and tear on your components and then calculating glitches that can happen based on that. No, I'm not sure how else they would do that though.
Push them beyond the red line and stuff. Yes, they will have to contend with more engineering. You want more, you have to put more into it as far as gameplay.
Days, not hours, I see.
There's also the case when you like basically underpower your ships, right? So this even helps you to reduce the chances of malfunctions to happen. For example, that was with the intention of us allowing you to like travel millions and millions and millions of kilometers with your Carrack to explore the vastness of space. So you basically
your poor GTI.
You would definitely undertune your items so that they are running with a lower like frequency, with a lower capacity, with lower resource consumption, with lower power, and that would
07 Shifty, catch you later. Thanks for dropping by today.
Ultimately result in they are more reliable. That means they trigger less malfunctions. So there you might even end up with half a year without a malfunction. I'm throwing in numbers, right? But we didn't decide on that because we have to keep it interesting. But we are definitely not talking about like once every 10 minutes.
Flying through a nebula, increasing your power. You get struck by lightning, you get a little boost. How you doing, Coro?
I'll probably reiterate every 30 seconds of the entirety of this conversation. But all of this is subject to further development, further tuning, further balancing, and most importantly, further testing. I mean, mining is a terrific example. You know, I'm going to use mining as a great example. Torsten and his team are the team that have worked primarily on, done most of the mining stuff that you see. And if you've been following the project, mining has grown and evolved and iterated the likes of far beyond a couple other systems and stuff like this. So expect that kind of thing from this. Like whatever the first version is that goes out, expect it to continue to evolve. Expect it to continue to change and iterate and grow based on your feedback and our team's intake and understanding of that feedback. I think you've been very good at demonstrating that in the past. So I want to make sure you get your kudos.
Thank you. But yeah, we are already expecting we are expecting that the values that we put in, once we put them into a patch that will be playable by the players, we expect them to directly react and tune the numbers so that they actually make sense and that people are actually enjoying.
So one of the questions again we saw was, I know we just said you don't necessarily need to have an engineer, but I feel like the desire for one would probably increase as the size of the ship and the complexity of the ship grows. So let's talk about a scale. Is there likely to be a use for an engineer on something as small as an Aurora? Then as we go up to a medium-sized ship, from a Cutlass and a Freelancer kind of thing, up to bigger Connies and stuff, then Carracks, and then Idrises and stuff like this. Talk to me about what you think that progression is. Again, go through testing and iteration stuff. But what are your thoughts on this here?
So my thoughts are that it is. So we won't put any numbers there. We want to make it attractive. So which is a kind of different approach, right? So we don't go in like this ship needs 5 engineers minimum to function. We really want to make it like you as a player recognize, okay, this is just the overhead of things I have to do is just so high, I should really ask a friend to join and take away the mechanic part of my engineering role. But since players are really interested in numbers, for example in Aurora, you as the pilot are also the engineer. Or if you are actually interested in that, because you still can go to the shop and get the repairs done there, or you don't have to. For a ship like Cutlass Black, I think it's also still fine that it is one person. A second person will definitely help, because then you can sit still in the pilot seat and then have the other person exchange a fuse or something like that, because also the space allows it. Yeah, on the Carrack, my personal recommendation here would be a minimum of 2 dedicated roles.
Big.
So you have one that basically pays attention to the entire setup, because also life support is part of that, and gravity, so the artificial gravity. So there's plenty to manage, while you should have a handyman running, a handy person running around there and actually fixing stuff.
It's also, I want to acknowledge that Torsten is answering these questions coming at it from the perspective of the engineering gameplay. So there are many, there are ship teams and other gameplay teams, stuff like this, that all come in, and it's really going to depend on what you want to do with your ship and how you want to do it. But I don't think it's unfair to say that if we're a massively multiplayer game in a universe designed for the intention is to have many people there, that if you bring one person to a situation versus you bring 2 people to a situation, we should be providing players with the opportunities to make 2 people more effective than 1.
Yeah, it's
what he's trying to say is this gameplay is meant to be better for groups. I don't know why they're so scared of saying that, but you can play this game solo, and this game should be playable solo. In fact, this game should be very fun solo, but let's be honest, they've got full-on FPS levels flying through space that you can put multiple people on. It would be insane for them to not focus on making that the best way to enjoy the game. It's so cool. Imagine if all of the gameplay you did was the exact same thing you would do if you were by yourself. I think that's reasonable for them to double down on the fact that things like this specifically are going to be a lot better for people in groups. They've said that they won't have things needing fixing every 5 minutes, but that's also kind of up to you. If you start your ship well, if you tune it as an engineer, if you do the things that you need to do, you can hold off on repairs and fixing things for a long time. If you don't take care of your ship, if you run it really hard, thrusters and boost all the time, and you abuse your ship, you'll have to fix it more and more often. Could it be possible to set up a shop in a station and sell engineering services for your ship? For your ship? I don't know. For a space station? Sure. Like, I mean, probably one of the things people will do is get a, what are they called? Gosh. What is the repair ship? The Crucible. People will probably get a Crucible, set up shop right outside a space station, and say, hey, my services are cheaper than what you'll get at the space station. Come on board, I'll repair your ship, I'll give you new components, you're good to go. That person could run a really, like, you could do that with a Starfarer if you wanted to, once the features are in place. Right now, not really possible though, John, but that is going to be a possibility, yeah. It'll be unfair if another player has a second teammate with him versus you solo. That is a good thing. Yeah, and like there will probably be ways for you to balance that playing field too as a solo player. I mean, hell, as a solo player, if you beat them, you're going to get a lot more out of it than if they beat you because they have to split everything, right? From what they're talking about, there is no reason to say, hey, you might need to stop by the mechanic to tweak things. To say, hey, you might need to stop by the mechanic. There's no reason to. It sounds like if you don't want to do it yourself, that's a reason. Solo players like you need to understand that we will be able to do everything. Not be able to do everything. Maybe not as much, yeah, as well as multiplayer stuff. You should be able to fly a Idris solo. You should be able to take that Idris solo and kill everything solo. You should just fly around with the railgun and destroy all fighters. This will objectively change the game for the better in so many ways. Yeah, this is huge. Engineering gameplay is freaking huge. I really hope we get to hear more about it sometime in the near future, probably at CitizenCon. And by then, I'm really hoping that we are seeing the fully realized gameplay actually happening in the game engine. But yeah, this is a big change to this game. I mean, this really steps Star Citizen up from just being a sort of everybody's kind of playing in a sandbox to like you can literally group up and have a group that knows what their jobs are. We don't know how widespread this will be when it comes into the game, but like this is the start of it. I think multi-crew engineering, the physicalized cargo stuff, the refining, salvaging, and mining being in a good place, all of these things together feel like they are really going to change the way this game feels over the next year and a half or so. This date was from March of this year, I believe. Yeah, March 17th of this year. All right, back into it.
More effective, but more enjoyable, right? So okay. If you're the only engineer on the ship and you constantly have like something red flashing and you're just stressed out by like, and you cannot keep up with the damage that has been done, I think it's, for some players it might be fun, like having this stressful, but for me, no. I would prefer to have like someone else to rely on as well. So I would,
that's fair.
In Hammerhead, like, hey, you take the left side of the ship, I take the right side, and yeah.
So I'm looking at the chat, some of the questions that are coming in. A lot of people are curious about how this interacts with repair. Like right now, the only version of repair that players see is you know, you landed a thing and the drones fly around, or you've got a beam, you know, and you shoot a beam at it. Talk to me about how engineering works with repair, either how it is today or where we're going in the future.
As it's more where we are going. So in the beginning, so right now our focus is in the engineering gameplay, and the next step that we then have to take is like fine-tuning the repair gameplay. That doesn't mean that the engineering gameplay doesn't have repair in it as well already, right? But we really would like to take repair afterwards a bit further than what we will deliver with the engineering gameplay. So the engineering gameplay might look like a more basic type of repair where it's exchanging items, exchanging fuses, using a repair beam to bring up the health of your items, fixing the hull you already know from the hull scraping part of it. But there is also, like, because we are going in this malfunctioning direction where it is like this
like non-visible damage that can happen to your items. There we want to go a bit more creative, so there are dedicated counters to that malfunction that you are facing, which is considered repair, right? So you bring back the item to its full functional state, and yeah. So to sum it up, the engineering gameplay holds in repair functionality, but we want to move it further afterwards.
Chat is going off. What version of the game is Jared?
It's like a Venn diagram.
Repair drones and beams. Yeah, I'm talking about what came before, what we've presented in the concept, promotions for several repair ships like the Vulcan and stuff that aren't out, and where we're moving, back to in the future with repair drones and flying around. If one must understand the great mysteries of Star Citizen, must take more than a dogmatic view of just the Jedi. I'm talking everything, trying to give me crap in the chat. Like, what version is he playing? We're talking about it all. So we're talking about the future. Can somebody sneak into a ship? Now, we talked about the different roles and stuff like this. Let's talk about sabotage, like reverse engineering, if you will. Using engineering offensively.
Yeah.
Is there going to be opportunities for players to sneak on board ships and use the tools of engineering offensively?
Yes. Yes.
You want to elaborate on that at all?
I can elaborate on that, yes. So we want to tie it in with a hacking gameplay. So that's one fact, that we want to allow you to hook yourself into one of the items and then get even access to, like, imagine yourself, you being the aggressor on the ship, you plug yourself into the power plant. If you don't want to, well, there's the option you physically damage it, so you might punch it or use hammer with a wrench on it.
Mm-hmm. Punching a component.
A beam to destroy.
That's how you fix it.
We love our beams.
Yeah, that's all about beams. And then, or you are the more digital assassin of the ship, where you just plug yourself in and go through the hacking gameplay. And then once you succeed, you get basically you get access to the states, what we talked about for the item. So you can switch around the states of the item and mess up your ship. But what you can also do is you can decide to ignore the item and progress further through the ship. So you basically move from node to node inside the ship. So once you successfully hack this power plant, you will see all the connected items that you can then select and start the next hacking procedure. And then you can make your way to whatever item you actually want to target.
Oh, that's actually, that's very cool. So I wonder if there's going to be counter hacking, because it sounds like it would take people a while to get actually through your ship systems. They might start the hack, but that might give you enough time to run through the ship, get to a computer, and start your own defense of that hack. Oh my God, what if there's like PvP hacking gameplay? Oh boy.
Or vent a room if you want to target the life support, or every functionality that you see on the engineering screen would be accessible through that hacking process.
I think chat's going out like hacking. Yes, hacking has been in the cards for Star Citizen, for the Persistent Universe, and for Squadron 42 for some time. Intrepid viewers of the public roadmap might remember there was a hacking card on the public roadmap for quite a while. We actually had going back to our conversation just before the show starts, we actually had filmed a segment for ISC way back when, detailing how hacking was going to work and what was that, and it was filmed and it was edited, and then somebody had a great idea about how to change it, and it fundamentally changed. It's like, no, we're going to go this way, and everything in that segment became wrong. So it's one of the few segments we've ever produced that never got aired and whatnot. It happens a while. The only constant in game development is change. It affects our video.
There's such a thing as too complex. There is, and some would say Star Citizen is. They are going for very deep gameplay in a lot of different places, which I think is the real challenge of the game.
Stay tuned. No other updates about that just yet. One of the other curiosities that came out of the show, flamethrowers.
Yeah, it's a thing. You have to, no.
Okay, were you being serious when you mentioned flamethrowers? Were you
No,
joking?
it was a joke. I'm very bad with jokes. I'm German.
Yeah, yeah, and the flamethrower that
Aw,
folks
German
saw
brothers.
in the show was literally I don't remember which rifle, but Will and Dave took the rifle and added flame to it to do the thing. So you're not actually looking at
not even
shooting a flamethrower at a
the
power supply.
the blowtorch was also an ejaculation there. So it's more like you can bring up the heat of the room with life support and stuff like that. So you might have more non-violent ways of bringing up the temperature if needed.
Yeah. Now that's not to say that flamethrowers won't make it into the game. The actor feature team is very keen.
How else are we supposed to heat up?
We're just saying that. I'm sorry.
And I'm not saying that they wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's just
so they might damage it,
they're
but
not an intentional part of engineer gameplay, and they're not soon. Yeah. On the flip side of that, though, exploding toilets.
It actually is now on our list.
It is?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Look into that camera and tell them that exploding toilets is actually on our list now.
Yeah, the exploding toilet is on our list now.
Because you saw it in the show and it was awesome, huh?
Yes.
I should just stop the show right there. See if we have any more questions from the chat. Let's recount the basics. Engineer gameplay is a totally optional or mostly optional profession like mining and salvaging. You can do many activities in the persistent universe without diving particularly deep into it if that's not your particular cup of tea. You'll be able to take your ship back to repair stations or service stations and get the work done automatically as needed. It is there should you wish to take your space experience further, getting more performance out of your vehicles, getting more performance out of your capabilities out of your spacecraft, and being able to stay out in the far reaches of unexplored systems and stuff like that longer without having to come back. And check in and repair. Flamethrowers are still on the wish list for the actor feature team, not necessarily a distinct part of engineering. Exploding toilets are the new cornerstone of engineering in all engineering gameplay.
I like that.
We'll be basically around just trying to keep the toilets in your
immersive toilets.
That's why we put bathrooms.
They immerse you in waste.
Rooms and toilets on every ship.
Yeah.
That's why Drake's ships are the best. They're the only ones that aren't going to have the exploding toilets. Am I right in everything so far?
All right.
Anything else you want to leave people with before we let you go? Any final words about engineering gameplay? You've seen your own feedback. You've seen the own comments. What are we missing? What do people need to know today? Now, we are going to come back with another look at engineering later this year.
Yeah?
It's much farther along.
Oh! Well, they said it. I don't know how much that actually means, but another update on engineering would be great. I hope that's outside of CitizenCon, because we're going to see it at CitizenCon.
We actually show you it working and the evolution of the resource management system with it. So we're not about answering every question and dotting every T today, but
I think we touched everything that I also stumbled over, where I was like, yeah, we should talk about that again and clarify things.
Okay. Well, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
And all right, so up next, that was Torsten. Up next.
All right, so that's engineering gameplay. That's basically everything we know. That mention of another update this year would be great. I do hope that we get to hear something in the next quarter before CitizenCon, because we know, like I said, we're going to see it at CitizenCon. I think that will probably be a decent overview, but another I think they'll probably give it to us in an ISC, not a Star Citizen Live. I like all the details that we can get from Star Citizen Live when we hear about these things, but I think it will probably be a CitizenCon update for that one. So that's engineering, life support, resource management, whatever you want to call it. That is everything we know about it, how it's going to function. It's going to change the game. It's going to give us a whole bunch of new multi-crew gameplay. And ultimately, I think it's one of the bigger changes to the game that we'll see. Just really depends on how they're going to roll it out. How many ships will have it at first, how deep it gets at first, how supported it is by components or even subcomponents, as they mentioned. They've talked about subcomponents in life support, and we don't have subcomponents in the game right now. So there's, as with everything, still a lot of questions surrounding this gameplay. I wouldn't expect it to be in the game in any sort of major way for probably the rest of this year. Maybe at the end of the year we'll see something, but I think it's better to set your expectations for next year and then be pleasantly surprised this year if it happens. But that's generally how engineering is going to work. It's a choice. It's not required. You can always fly to a station to get repairs. You can fly to other people to get refueled or to maintain whatever you're doing in the game, or whatever your ship is doing. It's like a lot of the other things. Mining, you can try it, you can ignore it. Salvaging, you can try it, you can ignore it. Combat, you can try it or ignore it. At some point, flying ships will be able to be ignored. This is just another one of those things, and I think it's probably one of the most impressive in the game, in my opinion. So that is our deep dive into engineering. I will be back with you later this year whenever they drop another update. But if you want a quick recap of that, I've actually got a... let's see if I can look up Space Tomato engineering, and let's see if it pulls anything up here. Oh, it pulls up what we literally are doing right now. Reaction, yada, 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 yada. What did I call the video? Space Tomato Resource Management? I made a video about this earlier this year. You can go check out. Oh, this one does a decent job at it. Resource Management Explained from last year. So yeah, take some time, do some research, find out more, but ultimately this is everything that engineering is going to be. It's very deep, it's very complex, and I think it's going to take years for it to become more accepted and understood in the game. Yeah, he had Anna on for the second half of this episode. I don't know what they talked about, probably the voice acting and stuff in the game. That's another good talk if you want to check that out. But guys, that's it. That's it for me, folks. I'm going to send you all on a raid over on Twitch. I hope you all enjoyed this deep dive. As always, I enjoy having them with you. Being able to just chat and talk about Star Citizen is kind of a dream, and I appreciate everybody for joining me to do that. Send you over to Sigelian today. How about it? He's playing some Star Citizen. I'm sure y'all will enjoy that. Thanks again for coming out and talking about this great project with me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tomorrow we might do some Escape from Tarkov, but we'll see. Depends on how excited y'all are on the Discord. Regardless, I'll see you then. Have a wonderful day, folks. Get into that giveaway. Make sure to get into that Nomad starter ship coming up at the end of the year, or the end of the month, sorry. And see y'all tomorrow.